All right, welcome to everybody. Thanks for attending the Monday webinar with us. This is my weekly watch list time. This is where I'm talking about all the things that I'm looking to trade this coming week. And some of them are short-term situations and some are slightly longer term. Some, most of them will set up this week. And especially this week, we have a lot of really kind of close by things if trends continue. And I think they will. Okay, so once again, this is Day Traders FX. We'd love to have you get a little free trial to the trade group. So come on by daytradersfx.com, and you can get a free trial there, and you can trade with us for the week and kind of see how we do, see if it fits your style, see if see if you make some money doing it. If so, feel free to jump on board. So Day Traders FX, have a look. Okay, so as far as news goes, bank holiday in the U.S., super quiet U.S. stuff today. But later on this evening, we have some Chinese GDP numbers, industrial production. That's going to be pretty big. China, here's my take on everything. China is going to be a little bit bigger of an issue than I think a lot of people think. And maybe I'm totally wrong about that. But I think it's going to be a little bit more painful than it seems like it's going to be. And I think that's going to probably trickle into U.S. and international, markets in general. So, so some of that news today is going to be kind of a big deal for sure. So Chinese GDP numbers, industrial production coming up. Tuesday we've got a couple of decent news announcements, some UK CPI numbers, German ZU numbers, and so on. Wednesday we have a pretty big day on Wednesday. We have some Canadian news. We've definitely been watching the dollar CAD and the EUROCAD pairs, and so this interest rate news on Wednesday will have a pretty good impact on that. And that's by itself. It's not really coupled with any other news announcements. Oftentimes, like Canadian employment numbers are on the same day as U.S. employment numbers, and so it kind of gets, it kind of mixes up the situation, makes it hard to trade like the dollar CAD or the EUROCAD because of the U.S. numbers coming out at the same time. So this is just a nice by itself announcement. There should be some pretty good activity during that time. So we'll have some live sessions for that and so on for group members on Wednesday. And we should be able to get some good movement out of that. And then, because I do not like to sleep, we will have some live sessions Thursday morning as well. We've got Euro press conference, ECB press conference, and interest rate news. That's going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big deal, especially this current one. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then going into Friday, we have a couple of decent announcements as well. So it should be a pretty good week as far as news goes. Definitely kind of keeping an eye on that and ready for any activity there. Okay, so the couple of pairs that I'm looking at this week, I'm looking at some very simple setups. And in fact, I'm looking at some setups that I think will be pretty important to how we trade really the first they're good foundational trading techniques, but especially how we trade the first half of this year, about the next 4, 5, 6 months, right around there. I think we're going to use this type of situation quite a bit, looking for trends and trading with trends and staying away from reversals and a lot of that stuff. And in fact, I'm going to have a webinar this Thursday night, and I will send out an email to everybody. Everybody will be invited to attend that. I'm going to send out an email, and we'll talk about a couple of simple trading techniques that we're going to incorporate a lot of the first half of this year. So keep an eye out on your email for that. That'll be coming up. But as far as some of this stuff goes, there's a few pairs that are semi-trendless, and the euro dollar happens to be one of those. However, I'm still really interested in the euro dollar, and I'm not totally sure why, but I think there's going to be some good opportunity here. Euro dollar seems to kind of be holding on to this little, we have this little kind of bull flag situation. We had this big spike up several weeks ago, even a couple of months ago now, almost 2 months ago, we had that huge spike up, which was about 500 pips, 450 pips, and then we've just had consolidation since for about a month and a half, and it's just been, peaking up a little bit above 110 and a little bit below 108, and just kind of really bouncing around in kind of a 200 pip channel for the last month and a half. I'm still pretty interested in this euro. I think this is a good opportunity opportunity. If we start breaking above about 109.50 and ultimately 110, then I'm going to be bullish euro dollar, and I'm going to be looking for crazy, ridiculous numbers as high as 116 and 118 to be reached. Long-term type stuff. But I'm not super duper optimistic of that happening, although it definitely can happen. But it might happen, and if it does, if we really start making some moves above 110 and 110.50, then I'm going to get pretty long euro and kind of take it from there. However, what I think is a more likely example is we're going to see tests just below just below 110 and even around the 109.50, 60 area, where the euro is going to chop around, and if it can stay, again, really the level is about 110 here. If it can stay below 110, then I think we have a pretty good bearish picture on the euro dollar, and I'm going to be looking for opportunities for little tiny double tops below 110 and some of that stuff to be selling those breaks. To start the week off, I'm going to look for a very simple trade on the euro dollar. It's been running up off this little level right here, and it's been getting really choppy and doing a bunch of crazy things. And basically, if this makes it above, if it stays below 110 and can break this trend line and below some of this support here, then I think we're going to be looking for a double bottom and a move down around 106 and around that general area. So basically, if we get this back below about 108, 50, 60 area, which we're not very far from, I'm going to be shorting the euro dollar and looking for anywhere from 50 to 150 pips around that from a break below that 108, 50, 60 area. So I like that, and I'm going to be really trying to play the levels up around 110 and below 110 and looking for opportunities to short off of those areas. But ultimately, if we start seeing some breaks of these trend lines, I'm going to be looking to get pretty short euro dollar. I think with what we're probably going to see happen in the stock market and what commodities kind of continue to do, we're just waiting for a few more things to jump on board. Oil is on this massive slide down, which who knows how much further it's going to be able to go. Gold hasn't really reflected much of a move down, and stocks are starting to make those big moves down. And usually when we see stocks and oil and gold all move together, and right now it's more oil and stocks are kind of slowly getting on board with this move down. And gold is kind of the next one to come. And when that happens, typically we see big rallies on the US dollar. And so if the dollar rallies big time, it should, as long as those things kind of fall into place. And so that's where I'm going to be looking for opportunities to really short this euro dollar. I think there's going to be some good trades there. Just a quick look. We have a really small falling wedge on the pound dollar. I don't know where this thing is going to stop. It has just continued lower and lower and lower, and we may be headed into the big low of 2008-9 area, which is all the way down at 130, about 135. This has just continued to go lower than I think anybody is expecting and has expected. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with this one, but I'm going to keep an eye on a little short-term price pattern here. If we get a bit of a break, we're starting to see some good numbers on the 1-hour chart. It's fairly overextended. We could get a nice little trade up into our weekly pivot and up into the 200 moving average there. So I'm going to be looking for a small trade to happen on the pound dollar here. We're going to be watching that one pretty closely. EURCAD, yes, and $CAD are both kind of in these interesting areas. Basically, the only thing to say right now is the important area on $CAD is about the most recent is about 143.1520. So basically a nice little 200 pip move down puts us into significant support. The $CAD is very overbought and could be looking for that move down there. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. You can see there's some trend lines in here, but I'm just not ready to get long Canadian dollar just yet. And so I want to kind of hold off on shorting this pair for the moment, but just know that it's kind of ripe for the picking, so to speak. And if we get a break of this little short-term channel, we could see 1 to 200 pip move down, just with a lot of caution though, lots and lots of caution. We have some nice missed pivots in here. We've got a really important support level around 143.15. 200 moving average, a very overextended all time frames kind of situation. So $CAD is actually looking very, very good. It's just whenever it's going to kind of slow down on this upward movement is the big question. EUROCAD's the same kind of situation. The EUROCAD broke a major support level, resistance level. You can see that we have this kind of triple top here that was about 155.50, and we talked about that in the webinar and so on. But it just plowed into that level, pulled back a little bit, and just busted right through that by 300 pips without hardly even taking a breath. And so I'm watching this 155.50 and looking for any movement back down to that. I'm not going to do anything on the EURCAD in the meantime. Possibly as we get into some of the ECB news, that's going to help this EURCAD give us a little bit of clarity, but it looks like a strong uptrend. Basically, we want to just look for any opportunities to buy dips and get some nice little simple breakouts and just kind of continue trading this with the trend until we can get a little bit more of signal that this is going to be turning around. So keeping an eye on EURCAD, keeping an eye on dollar-CAD, definitely keeping an eye on euro-dollar, and part of an eye on the pound-dollar. But there's a lot of other pairs that are looking interesting. Some of the Aussie and New Zealand pairs are interesting. I'm still more interested in yen pairs right now. So yen pairs, we have yen pairs running kind of all over the place. Trades, we've made tons of money on the yen this year so far and the last part of last year. And I think that is hopefully going to be able to continue. The euro-yen currently, euro seems to be holding pretty well out of most of the other pairs. We're seeing a lot of pound weakness, a lot of Aussie weakness, New Zealand weakness, and so on. And the euro seems to be holding pretty well. And I'm just kind of waiting to see if that euro starts to collapse and work its way down. So I'm going to be watching this euro-yen. You can see that it had this big run down and then some consolidation, and it's kind of broken through this trend line, and it's stayed below pretty consistently well. But it's kind of bouncing around here. So opportunities to stay short euro-yen are good in my book, and get short. We'll be discussing some more entries there, but kind of around this 128.00 area and even a little bit above are good areas for entries. And we're just going to kind of watch that one. We have some pretty good setups on some of these other charts, though. Dollar yen, if the dollar doesn't really start to pick up some momentum against everyone else, then the dollar yen is a really good short in my book. We have a fantastic head and shoulders pattern on the weekly chart, and it's had trouble playing out. But if it can really pick up some momentum, the dollar yen is going to be a really, really good trade. We had this little level, this little setup here for last week. It bounced around and then it broke this trend line last week, and it's kind of retracing back up. And I'm looking for like the 11800 area. We're only at 11750, around 11800, and then getting some stops above last week's highs as well, and looking for opportunities to short this pair. You know, like let it retest the trend line and some of this stuff, and then continue moving back down and hopefully finally break that 1700, 11650 kind of area and really start to play out this bigger movement here. So with dollar weakness, that's definitely what we want to see. If the dollar continues strong, then I'm probably going to stay away from dollar yen. But if we start to see some nice dollar weakness, be ready to jump into something like that, because there's going to be some good opportunities on dollar yen. You can see we've got some little small trend lines in the works currently, so let's just keep an eye out on that. Aussie yen is a great one. Aussie yen has really kind of bumped around here. We had huge moves down, some retracement, a nice big move down, and we're back in retracement zone here. You can see that we had this nice little support level of about 81.15 or so all last week. It bumped against it a couple of times, then right towards the end of last week it broke down through. And then as the market opened this week, the Aussie yen went right back up to that old support, now resistance level, and bounced along the bottom of that. And seems to be kind of just hopping around here. So I'm going to be watching for breakouts and for continuations here. I think the Aussie yen has a lot to go. There's some big levels down here that we can still get reached. And so I think that I think Aussie yen is going to be a great little trade as this thing continues to develop. So again, just kind of keep an eye on the short-term trend lines. We just want to find trends, angled trend lines, breakouts, trade. Boom. Just that simple. So Aussie yen should be a good opportunity for that to happen. New Zealand yen, same type of a situation here. New Zealand yen's had this huge, ridiculous move down. It's gotten into some of this consolidation here, but that doesn't really concern me too much yet. I think we've still got some good opportunities here. We're getting a little on the overextended side here on the 1 hour chart, so we're going to be careful with that, see if we can get some moves back higher. But basically, if this starts getting back below about 75.50, I'm going to be short New Zealand yen once again as well, and I think there's going to be some good opportunities to just get, even if just some small trades, 40, 50, 60 pips below about 75.50. New Zealand yen should be good for that. Pound yen has not slowed down much. It's definitely overextended on all time frames as well, but I'm not going to mess with the trend. The trend is probably going to continue on these pairs. Pound yen has just been going down and down and down. We've made a lot of money on the way down, and I'm just watching for this to kind of continue giving us little pullbacks and trend line breakouts and nice continuations there. So head and shoulders pattern played out perfectly well here. Hit the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, which was pretty overextended. Any amount of retracement that this thing makes is good in my book, specifically if it retraces above the high of this week, which is about 168.15. If it can retrace above that, then that's good. Otherwise, I'm going to be watching for some breaks of this ascending trend line, just simply and looking for 50, 60, 70, 100 pips of movement back down. So pound yen looks great for that. Pound CAD has got some nice opportunities this week. It's kind of coming up. We have a big double top here. If the Canadian dollar can start to rally just a little bit, pound CAD is probably going to be one of my number one bets of pairs to trade. I love dollar CAD and EUROCAD, but the pound CAD could be really, really excellent there. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Pound Swiss franc, again, decent little kind of downtrend in the works. Nice little pullback right now. We've got plenty of big lows back there. Even without that wild, crazy spike there, we have some lows going back to 2011 and so on that are quite a bit lower than current market price. So I'm going to be watching this pound Swiss franc, looking for a break of about 143.00 to start shorting this. Setup that we're going to be looking for a couple of these random ones, but we just want to find some good trend. We want to find some nice pullbacks, some angled trend line breakouts. That's it. Don't get caught in these trends trying to trade reversals too much, because that is so risky, and trends always go longer than anybody expects. So reversals are going to be really tricky right now to trade. So unless you're really an experienced reversal trader, just be so cautious with those. And that should work out well for you. But let's take advantage of these big trends. I think we have some really, really good setups. I think we have some really good trends and some really good pairs to work with this week. So I'm pretty excited about all these. And we're going to have lots and lots of updates this week that should really, really, give us some great trades to work with. So I'm excited about that. Questions, comments, send them on over. Let's hear it. I'm happy to chat about anything. I see Ralph, CAD Yen. We'll talk about that. Anyone else? Any other questions? Bring them up.